Actually,
No! Forget that!
it's like I've never seen actual skin be torn apart like that. It's like paper, but worse. Yeah, Mambo Italiano. Yeah, Mambo.
Judith Windom, a 42-year-old high school teacher living her quiet life with her son in Boise, Idaho, woke up on January 24th, 2007, looking forward to just another regular day. Unbeknownst to her, her tragic demise lurked just around the corner and was delivered through her beloved son. Law enforcement authorities received a harrowing call from 16-year-old Ethan Windom on the day of the event, informing them that he had just stumbled upon his mother's mutilated body. It hinted that the crime had stemmed from hate. But who could do this to an ordinary woman minding her own business? The details of the case left law enforcement officers scratching their heads. But the more they interrogated Ethan, the more they understood just how involved he was in the case. This is the story of Ethan Windom, the 16-year-old boy who hadn't hesitated before clubbing his mother to her demise and leaving her skull open. Come join us as we tell you how the event unfolded and what prompted Ethan to take such a drastic step. Ethan Windom was a stellar student with great academic records at Bora High School. However, he had an unhealthy obsession with studying criminal minds and serial killer psychology, which might have been a telltale sign that something wasn't quite right with him. His warped mental state is clearly visible during his interrogation, which we will explore in a few minutes. During the interrogation, one of the detectives called him out on his obsession with books by Bret Easton Ellis, the author of the infamous 1991 novel turned movie known as American Psycho. It portrays a 20-something rich and influential investment banker based in Manhattan in the late 1980s who is a harmless elite in the day and a serial killer at night. The police believed that Ethan's obsession with this story could have been a prime reason behind his mother's untimely demise. Interrogation also revealed that Ethan had a pretty tumultuous relationship with his mother, and she even feared him at times. In 2006, he was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and anxiety. His therapist had concerns that Ethan might have had psychopathic tendencies. But were these claims sufficient to conclude that Ethan was behind this heinous crime? Apart from American Psycho, the investigation revealed that Ethan possessed the book without conscience and also had many clinical forensic books on his shelf. This proved that he might have been planning the incident by trying to understand the processes. During the interrogation, he almost convinced the cops that an intruder had killed his mother. But Judith was a special education teacher at Eagle High School and lived a fairly simple life without any enemies. Reportedly, Ethan and his friends were involved in substance abuse, and Judith disapproved it, leading to more conflict. Ethan also demonstrated antisocial behavior, which made him a prime suspect. But was Ethan truly the culprit behind the tragic incident? If so, how did the detectives make him admit to his crime? On January 25, 2007, Craig Windom was woken up by his wife. She told him that his son Ethan, who lived with Craig's ex-wife Judith, had just arrived at their house and was looking disturbed. Craig was left astonished as Ethan told him that his mother, Judith, had passed away. He called the police quickly and sent them to Judith's house. Ethan's first call with law enforcement sounded normal for a teen in shock. He informed them that he last saw his mother at 9 in the evening. He had a brief conversation and then she went to bed. And then he began watching a movie and fell asleep on the couch.
And where was your mom at when you were sleeping or you were hanging out?
In her room.
She's in her room?
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw her? What time?
9 o'clock, I believe.
The police arrived at Ethan's house, which looked like a crime scene. Judith's face was unrecognizable, and it was evident that her death wasn't normal.
There's blood everywhere, guys. It's gonna be a head.
There's dry blood on the floor of the bedroom.
They also found a knife sticking out of Judith's open skull and decided to speak to Ethan immediately. When the detective asked about a possible suspect, he mentioned hearing thudding noises the previous night when he was asleep, hinting that someone else had taken his mother's life.
What's going on, Ethan? Dad was whacking her and s***ing her.
Ethan was very closed off and often shook his head vigorously, gave long anecdotes of insignificant events, and yawned unusually when answering. He excitedly told them about his recent hobby of gaining muscles and working out. Police investigation found multiple containers of weight gainer in his house, along with gym equipment. As the detective probed Ethan to give up more details, or rather, the truth, of what had truly happened, Ethan became agitated.
Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You hurt your mother. And I know you. Why would I do this? Well, that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to talk to you. Why would that hurt her?
Ethan suddenly began speaking in a different accent. When the detective called out Ethan's obsession with the psycho killer novel and asked if this was the inspiration behind his actions, Ethan became irrationally angry.
You do not understand this book. Okay, tell me about this book. This is a book. Okay, have you never even heard about books like these?
He obsessively described the main character of the book, Patrick Bateman, and mentioned how they shared the same mindset. The conversation was far removed from the homicide at hand, so when the detective nudged him back to the matter at hand, he burst again.
What happened to the weights?
What happened to the weight?
Yeah.
You really want me to go in through this?
Detectives were certain that his emotions were fake. He also seemed to dislike his father.
He booted me out of his house the other weekend because his wife thought I didn't appreciate them. Said that walk to the kids all the time.
This clearly hinted that Ethan saw himself as a victim of his parents' misdeeds and had pent-up anger and resentment for them. Craig had confirmed earlier that he had suspicions about Ethan because on multiple occasions, Judith had informed him that she was afraid of Ethan because of how he treated her. At one point during the interrogation, Ethan actively claimed that he didn't have MPD or multiple personality disorder.
You want to do some little schizophrenia in my head? Holmes? I'll tell you, because I know all the symptoms. Don't tell me there's another part of Ethan. Ethan is Ethan, and that's it.
His behavior got more eerie with every question, as if he was impersonating Bateman.
Oh, hold on, this feeling.
First thing about you telling me you understand, we make mistakes,
Investigations uncovered that Ethan would bully his mother to meet his demands. He had taken over the master bedroom and moved his mother to the smallest one, and he also rearranged the furniture in the living room to place his armchair where he saw fit. It was proven at this point that Ethan had a deep loathing for people of authority, his teachers, law enforcement, the detectives interrogating him, even his mother. The detective then gained Ethan's attention by speaking about his favorite fictional character, Bateman. Ethan said Bateman's family was dysfunctional, further proving that he also saw himself being stuck in a dysfunctional family, just like the Batemans. However, he denied forming any relation between the two families in his mind, but the detectives had information that Ethan had bullied his mother into buying him expensive skincare products and a white comforter like Bateman's. His obsession with fitness was also borrowed from the fictional character. When the detective informed him about checking the crime scene, he admitted that he had tried to clean up the mess.
I already tell what you found in there. I covered up everything. I tried to wipe off the blood.
Why?
Why?
Why wouldn't you call the cops and say, my mom's hurt?
Because what's the first thing that's gonna happen? You guys are gonna accuse me, like you're doing right now.
Ethan also admitted that there was a black mark on his sheets from the weights, which he would have removed if he was the perpetrator. He was firm in his claim that the intruder had harmed his mother.
Two 10s on each side.
No, on one side.
1 10 and then a 10, so 20 pounds.
One side that has weights on it. And they clubbed her.
Ethan announced that he was smarter than everyone he knew, a telltale sign of narcissism. He also seemed adept at manipulation tactics.
Everyone's too easy to figure out. You know how they figure out what they want, what their needs are, what to say to them. My friends are stupid.
Okay.
My friends are dumb.
I don't know your friends, so I
They're
would say
idiots.
At this point, Ethan had already accepted that he could change parts of his personality and morph into whoever he wanted based on the situation. He began praising serial killers like Ted Bundy, seeming to idolize him. When the detective circled back to his relationship with his parents, Ethan agreed that his mom and him argued sometimes and she would call Craig to discuss his behavior. It ticked him off when his father would come home and try to talk to him about his misconduct. The remarks he made about his father were also disrespectful.
I was ready to slap that. I swear to God, that stuff doesn't even work. He plays music at bars. He got a little extra cash.
At this point, Ethan's speech changed completely, as if he had morphed back into himself. He sounded much calmer and more like himself. He described how, on the day of the incident, he had tucked his pets into the weight room, gave them some food and water, covered the crime scene with a blanket, and walked out of the house. When asked about weapons, Ethan mentioned having a dull butterfly knife and a gun in the house that was usually never loaded, but he continued to claim an intruder harmed his mom. He described the intruder's physical features, but the man didn't exist. And then he claimed something extremely shocking. The intruder had supposedly forced him to hit his mother's lifeless body.
But he made me stick to one knife that is semi-sharp.
why did you do that?
No. Make it look like I did it. Inside the brain, because it must have been cracked, because there was blood everywhere.
The detective began to find mismatched information in his story. Ethan said that he didn't see the intruder as the lights were turned off. He also said it could be his brother Mason, who'd come to visit that same day. When the detective asked why he didn't run to save her life, he said he didn't have the proper clothes on. He asked why Ethan had changed the phone answering machine, and he said it was because he didn't know where he was going or for how long.
Hey, this is the Windom residence. If you're trying to reach me or Ethan, we're actually out in Washington right now. Having a couple of family problems, so we had to take a trip out there. I'm sure we'll be getting back by next week. Bye.
But another call that Ethan made to his friend gave him away. He told him he couldn't attend school for the next 2 days and that he would find Ethan's house locked if he were to pick him up. This proved that he had done something horrible there. This was also borrowed from the movie American Psycho. When Judith's best friend testified against the 16-year-old boy, she spoke of his mistreatment with his mother.
He bullied her. And she said, he scares me. She said that. I'm not making it up. And that's what I told her. I said, you know, it's not normal to be afraid of your own kid.
She said that Judith spent a lot of time outside, possibly just to avoid confrontations and tension with her son. Police reports claimed that Ethan had once thrown Judith against the wall and spit in her face. And on another occasion, he told his brother that Judith would get what she deserved. According to one of his classmates, Ethan told him that he had an overwhelming desire to kill, that sometimes didn't let him sleep at night, and that he didn't feel love or emotions anymore. He also supposedly told another person that he wanted to be a psychopath and a serial killer. Another report mentioned that Ethan had requested to be admitted to a mental clinic, but his pleas had gone unheard. Just before the incident, Judith was scared of him, and she had discussed it with Craig.
She called me up frantic and said, "You're going to have to come and get Ethan because I can't handle him. I'm afraid.
The detective gave Ethan one last chance to confess. Ethan asked if he was going to get his own cell if he went to jail. The detective used his demands as bait, and Ethan finally gave in.
Sure, I guess I did.
I guess I did or I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
How did you do it?
A whack in the head.
In a chilling confession, Ethan said that the urge to kill had been growing inside him for a long time, and he tried telling his therapist about it, but nobody listened. He was having muscle spasms on the night of the incident, and during an impulsive moment, his mother became the victim. He also admitted to knifing his mother in the heart after hitting her head. Ethan said all of it calmly, as if he were narrating his favorite story. He even quoted Bateman, "It's growing inside of me, a need for killing."
Not sure if you throw.
I thought I did, but I wasn't sure, you know. I tried to make the motion. It's harder than it looks.
Police later uncovered a to-do list mentioning cannibalism and taking people's lives in one of his notebooks, along with pictures of women being tormented and unalived. This was another similarity with American Psycho. Detectives eventually found 25 similarities between him and Bateman from the infamous movie. Ethan was charged with first-degree murder as an adult in December 2007. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and received a life sentence without parole. However, the court decided that life sentences for juveniles stood against the Eighth Amendment. A series of Supreme Court rulings called into question whether fixed life sentences are unconstitutionally cruel and unusual when imposed on juveniles who are under the age of 18 when they commit the offense. In 2019, after serving 16 years, Ethan received a new sentence of 26 years in prison. Despite the criticism, the decision remains unchanged, and Ethan Windom will be out of prison in a few years. What do you think about the curious case of Ethan Windom? Do you think he received the right punishment for his crimes? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.